Welcome everybody to Windfall for October. Very glad to see everybody here in person. This is our second in-person Windfall, and it's just delightful to see people's faces as opposed to, hey, I know, right? Still staring at my camera and talking into the abyss. It's nice to be able to be here. My name is Wendy. I work at the library, and I'm the host for the Windfall reading series. I'm going to introduce Erica and Joan very shortly. They are the people who are representing the Lane Literary Guild. They're fabulous. But before they do that, just a few very quick announcements. The first one is that I wanted to thank a few groups. I wanted to thank the Lane Literary Guild, without which we would not be having this program. So thank you so much for all the work you do and all the great events. Am I too loud?
No, not loud enough.
Not loud enough. Okay. I'll get a little bit closer. I'm actually trying to be careful because I tend to have a very loud voice anyway, so I don't want to be like, oh my gosh. Okay. So excellent. Thank you for letting me know. So the Lane Literary Guild, many thanks to you. Thank you also to a couple groups that work with the library, the Friends of the Eugene Public Library and the Eugene Public Library Foundation. Both groups, they fundraise tirelessly. They're great advocates for free speech, for books, for materials, and they make our programs happen as well. So many, many thanks to these groups. Again, couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. So if you have questions or comments or thoughts, we do have a Q&A at the end of this session. And there are a couple different ways you can go about it. You're welcome to just ask the authors when they're done reading, which is fabulous since they're here and you can do that. You can also, if you are doing the live stream right now, you are welcome to put your questions in the YouTube question box right below the video. You can also email me if you're feeling shy and you can use any name you want. Feel free to email me because you can email me out here if you're feeling shy. And I will read the questions or comments at the end. My email will show up in the YouTube screen, and you can ask me also if you want to get my email here. But that'll be at the end, so the reading will be for about an hour, and then there's half an hour of Q&A. So that's it for me. I will now turn the mic over to Joan, I believe, of the Lane Literary Guild.
I'm so happy to be here and glad that you guys are all here. Can you hear me? Am I speaking properly? Okay. Our first reader today is going to be Cecelia Hagen, who I met maybe about 1984, doing poetry right here in Eugene. Cecelia has poems in recent issues of New Ohio Review, Guesthouse, On the Seawall, EcoTheo, and Broadsided. She is the author of Entering by Airlie Press. She has 2 chapbooks, among others, the name of the chapbook, among others, by Trap Rock Books, and Fringe Living by 26 Books Press. Born in San Diego, she grew up in Norfolk, Virginia, and lives in New London and Boston, or lived, I should say, in New London and Boston before arriving in Eugene, Oregon, where she lives in the deforested hills. Welcome, Cecelia.
I'm not loud enough, just sort of wins. I don't know what's wrong, so get close. Yeah, all right, closer. Hi, nice to see everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Wendy, Joan, and Erica. Real pleasure to reading. I wanted to say I did bring a couple books for sale, and each one is $10. Any book, $10. And I have this little bus poems book. There's the little bus poems on the EMX line, but there are only a couple of these because I lost a box of them. So And then the chapbook that Eric Muller, Eve's dad, did, $10, and the Early Press, big book. So, but I'm going to read new poems tonight. Yeah, there's a kid in the audience. This poem is a little dark, but I think it'll be okay. It's called Shore Leave. I did grow up in Norfolk, and it's about some high school friends. Shore leave. Marie didn't like her teeth, which protruded, or her face, fully freckled. But Kevin, whose hair flopped over one eye, took a shine to her in high school. And Marie did shine on the basketball court and by Kevin's side, and even in between, alone with herself, she found a way to satisfy her needs. They married. Marie's white dress, still almost warm in its keepsake wrapper, when Kevin's number came up. While he was away, Marie found a lump that was cut out, but it killed her anyway. Kevin was bereft and got brief leave, then shore leave, then he died too, not built to last without Marie, not able to live in their rented apartment with its cinder block walls, bare as barracks, echoey as an empty basketball court. I'll finish with a happy poem, but I can't promise a lot of happy ones in between. Nick.
Could you read the last half of that again? Just because I missed what you said.
Oh, okay. Not built to last without Marie. Not able to live in their rented apartment with its cinder block walls, bare as a barracks, echoey as an empty basketball court. There's a whole story about Kevin's father too, but luck. So I'm going to stay in the kind of Norfolk, Eastern Seaboard region of my youth for a while, just because that's my fertile ground. Well, I'm glad I left. On the shore at Lynnhaven Inlet, the January air over the Atlantic presses chill fingers against the white caps. Our neighbors, Betty, unhappy, middle-aged Betty, and her mother, Irene, have heard it brings good luck to drink seawater at the start of the year. They stand at the ocean's edge and toss a wide-mouthed jar with a piece of twine tied around its neck into the brink as the wind blows sand and salt spray into our faces. The waves refuse to fill the jar. Again and again it bobs back, nearly empty. But they keep trying, tossing until they get, somehow, enough. My mother advises against drinking the gray-green, murky brew, but Betty is desperate. Luck has to be located somewhere, maybe here. Let it be here. She drinks, grimaces, drinks again, then takes a can of beer from her purse, pops it open, and washes the awful taste down her throat. I'm thirsty. Oh, we had a pet parakeet. Anybody here have a pet bird? Yeah, all right. Parakeet. The parakeet gripped our fingers and pecked salt from our lips. Even though it hurt, we laughed and licked the bit of blood. When startled, he perched on a curtain rod or a lampshade to eye us, but allowed our hands to cup his wings and place him back in his cage, where he nodded off while we watched movies introduced by a vampire who sat up in his coffin before he spoke. I slept with a rosary around my neck so its crucifix would be within reach if a real vampire tried to pierce my throat. But old movies didn't scare me. Their soundtracks were slightly warped, as if the years were a kind of water and damage had accrued. We were learning the art of the knowing snort, bolstered by danger and the denial of danger. Commercials came thick and fast, selling things adults would buy, mattresses, tires, uniforms for sailors, and those in charge of sailors. On our street, police shot at Tommy and Mike, when they ran from a stolen car. A drunk driver flipped her car on a hot afternoon and mocked the people who ran to help just before she broke into sobs. Good times. So this was the Jim Crow era, for sure. You know, when you're a kid, you don't know. I saw it, but I didn't know what to make of it, though my mother said it was wrong, but it was how things were. It's called Virginia Reel, which the reel, you know, like the dance, it's a folk dance. Entering the diner, we walked past three men, their backs hunched over the counter, their butts big on stools that swivel as they survey my brother, his over-the-ears hair, causing them to lower their coffee cups and crack. I don't know whether I want to punch him or ask him to dance. Virginia humor deep in the heart of Princess Anne County, circa 1964. My mother, my brother, and I pretend not to hear what they say, make our way to an empty table, hold the big menus in front of our faces, and stare at the options available to us deep in the heart. So you probably remember the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, still fresh in our minds. And that was so shocking, the way he talked, his rudeness. And, you know, I thought for sure that was not going to pass. He was not going to get voted in. And then this is my protest. And it's called 17. I slid to the kitchen linoleum. I liked linoleum. I liked beer and drank can after can until I reached nirvana, 7 empties lying with open eyes around me after I teased out the last warm sips by tilting to a steep angle, since I was taught not to waste, and every drop might hold a rainbow. I liked the rotisserie feeling in my head, the loosened limbs I couldn't quite control. That's what I said, control, though it came out sounding like contrail. And I thought of jets trailing white streams against a blue sky inside me like a secret, the linoleum smooth and speckled, a good place to lie down and dream of flying like the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk. What joy to lift above the sand and sea, to achieve freedom, a brief soaring freedom. As Brett pointed out to Senator Amy Klobuchar, 18 was a legal drinking age, so 17 was not that far off. And here's so now we're at a party, a college party, but I'm in high school, called my aptitude level. No punch bowl, just a metal garbage can lined with a large black plastic bag. For this purple haze, some grape juice must have played a part, but only a small one. You can go blind from drinking grain alcohol, or so I learned on a later day. But that night, the dark was everywhere, as were the college boys and girls, all a few years on me. I drank it in. In the living room, I slow danced with an exchange student from France who tried to help me follow his lead as I swayed in his arms. Just close your eyes and pretend you're sleeping. For the next few years, I self-induced a trance, not every time, but every time I slow danced. I'll leave the past here soon, but this is just one of those kind of little procedural poems, and people talk about the candies of that era or whatever, but this is about making a phone call and how you had to do it. It's called making the connection. You had to know your friend's number and put the tip of your finger into the small hole, turn it all the way to the curved bar to complete the circuit, then release it. Do that at least 6 times more, waiting each time for the dial to spin back to its resting spot. Each move was marked by a series of quick clicks from inside the phone, then the ring and silence and the ring until you hung up if no one was home, or until the ring was interrupted by whoever came to the phone and lifted the receiver and held it close to their ear and mouth, saying hello. Then you also said hello, said your name, asked to speak to your friend. Right now the birds were watching out your window, were rustling their wings, about to fly. Whoever answered your call would cover the tiny holes in the mouthpiece with the palm of their hand and call your friend, the muffled sound of their voice blending with the bird's flight, those grasping feet dangling beneath feathered bellies as the wings spread and flapped and flew. And you heard your friend's voice, a little breathless from running to the phone, come through the wires. Maybe the scary thing is like you had to talk to maybe a parent. I mean, it's not scary, but it's like, that's now, that never happened. Right, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. This one's called The Touching, sort of a fable. The women were touching the baby's soft spot. They knew about fragility. The women were touching their own leaking bodies, the baby part of them, part of the leakage. The world needed to be linked together. The breakage was tender, needed tending. The women knew how to crawl away from danger, knew the angle and speed of the moon as it crawled across the night. But the women knew not to follow the moon, nor the ghost of it emerging from the undergrowth, nor the soft indentations made by creatures that came out with the hush time, the shadow time, the cool and beckoning quiet. The women were familiar with lulls and lullabies and the surge they felt inside them. They let it urge them forward toward an unknown that felt well known, known inside them. The women brought draw knives and seed packets and gemstones and compasses and went looking for places to plant things, but mostly themselves, their stories, their undergrowth and overtime. The baby already knew how to watch them well, waved its stubby arms and legs, and opened its eyes wide and wider. The world widened too, as the soft spot slowly shrank, the soft bones hardening and linking up, touching the untouched edges. I know that's called the fontanelle, but I just didn't want to use that word. So I know that. I have a couple, in the Among Others chapbook, brown one. I had this character Clown, and all the clown poems were really short, but Clown was this character that just, I like to write about. And now I have a new character, and it's the Big Bad Wolf. So I brought a couple of those poems. The Big Bad Wolf had to get his mother, this one's called. So these are longer poems. The Big Bad Wolf had to get his mother out of jail, had to post bail. What outweighed the shame was inconvenience. Making bail meant dropping out of school, tuition the prohibition, the path for his dreamed of escape narrowing like a pigtail. The flaws and foibles of the past grow hazy, facts get barnacled with fables. Yet still it's true, what a mother she was, never backing down, never admitting defeat, even while guilt clung to her like a stink, like she'd rolled in something putrid. Let it cling, her bearing said, snout tilted up in a perpetual sneer, sniffing some higher atmosphere. So it was goodbye books for Big Bad Wolf. As the morning sun crept toward the couch to wake him, he vowed to flip the lessons he'd learned, but some kind of gravity kept edging them back to their original angle. He never stole, but he did steal away. He never murdered, yes, he mangled. Never locked anyone up in a closet, but some skeletons were doomed to rot in his hope chest, when everyone knows wolves don't have hope chests. But don't feel bad for the Big Bad Wolf. He had plenty of imaginary friends and songs, dinner theater, parties with pretty drinks. He lapped them up. And every morning the coffee tasted good as ever. The Big Bad Wolf had a knack for appreciation, could wisecrack, had a terribly wide smile. And this is the second Big Bad Wolf poem. Big Bad Wolf was being followed. The big bad wolf was being followed home by the moon. It seemed to know where he lived. Of course it did. Once upon a time, he had heard this story, but remembered it only vaguely. Now, on his couch, a lunar presence. He was in a children's book again. Not the villain this time, but defanged, befuddled. He knew he could play the part. His theater training came in handy, like pulling a piece of string, pulling. He would pull the moon into deep conversation. It would not catch him in a lie or cast a shadow across his shaggy outline. They spoke of grief and fireflies, shape-shifting and escape. At one point, the big bad wolf wanted to put his arm around the moon, so round, so thoughtful, but it was a move he did not make. He found himself moved, approachable, talking with a friend. Yeah. So I had a fun about making a phone call. Now I have a poem. Now I have a poem about tying your shoes. See how simple this is. Next, brushing your teeth. Yeah, but shoe tying. Shoe tying. Oh, this is actually about a marriage. A previous marriage, I should say. One morning during our era of grudge holding, you sat down on the edge of the bed and bent to tie your shoes. As usual, you tightened the laces where they lay across the tongue with a series of tugs before wrapping the two strings with a knot that you doubled, a final tug. From where I lay on my side of the mattress, each yank caused a jerk, a shock, a shake. I thought about your pale feet encased in your shoes all day. Then another thought surprised me because of the ache that accompanied it, that one day someone else would be feeling the force of your shoe tying. And I was struck by the pleasure of this era we were in, our intimacies silent and shared mainly through mere nearness, though nearness is a form of endearment after all. So sad. I'm not doing that again. I should have looked this up, but the Bayeux Tapestry, it's from, I think, the 12th century. It's this long, it's 70 feet long or something. It's like this, it's a long banner, and it tells the story of the Battle of Hastings, and it's embroidered by nuns. It's in a museum somewhere. And so this book is called Thinking of the Bayeux Tapestry's 93 penises. It's just true. Somebody counted them. Holy the firm, they say. Tell that to the horse, the man lying on his back, cock high over his bloody thigh. The brute of war engorges man and beast. The clash of iron on steel makes loud even the less endowed organ. And to think that each proud knob arose from tiny pricks needled into 70 meters of linen by nuns who had pierced the slender bones in their hands and said nothing that remains for us to hear. I said that wrong, but the needles were bones. Yeah. Yeah. This for the one or two tango dancers out there, the bandoneon, it's this great kind of accordion-like instrument, and it's very hard to learn. It's one of those things you wish you could do. So if I could just get a sudden knowledge, that would be my wish, to be able to be a bandoneon player. So this is my poem. My instant expertise. If I could be granted instant expertise in anything, I choose to be a bandoneon player. I'd hold its dark pleats across my knees and squeeze and expand its boxy ends as my fingertips flew over the 37 buttons on the right side and the 34 buttons on the left, each with a tone that changes depending on whether I push or pull. My arms would turn into wings, and the rumbling notes that rose from its core would lift me up, me and my bandoneon. I played tango tunes from the golden age and folk songs I made up on the spot, drawing on the knowledge bestowed on me when I instantly became a bandonista. Inside its black insides, my soul would reveal all its angles, the tiptoeing burglar, the boasting lover, the tender, jubilant dancer with slender, expressive feet. All the grace and grace notes and glissandos pouring out from between my hands. Oh yes, I would carry it always. I'll just read two more. This one's called The Fortune in Trades. Once for fixing a car, my husband was paid with a large bag of small fish, smelt, frozen into a block that was flecked with scores of silver eyes. I would bring a dull knife out to the chest freezer and break off a chunk, let it thaw in the sink, and feed it to the cats and dog. Another customer shaved off some of the cost of her engine rebuild by knitting my husband wool socks that needed to be washed a particular way, which I failed to do because the customer wanted to do more for him than knit his socks, and maybe did. After they shrank, I could have worn them, but didn't. A waste I could live with. In the pantry sat another tray, a jar of home-canned venison I never dared to open. Those purplish cubes of meat and their purplish fluid pushed against the jar's inside for years. My favorite trays were the things the metalsmith made. A hammered rack for pans, a copper vase, and 3 bright numbers that still mark that house, beautiful things with the tang of the earth inside them. And I said I'd end with a happy poem. Yeah. It's called Default Emotions, which I realized in an earlier poem I said happiness wasn't my mother's default emotion. But default emotions. I enjoy seeing chubby chihuahuas hurry to keep up with their people. I like it too when wild sweet peas dot roadside ditches with flamboyant pink. Dusty Springfield's voice on the radio, or that Outcast song with the line, "Lend me some sugar, I am your neighbor." When I hear those, I always feel happy. Do I need help to feel happy? Sometimes. But sometimes it's just in me, the way it seems to reside in my brother. It must have come from our father. Still, a buoyancy can swirl inside me, a wave crashing on shores, a snake sunning on a warm stone, a baby crying so hard you can tell from the sound of it that sleep will soon follow. Aww.
That was magnificent and inspiring, and I didn't stop smiling the whole time. So, take a deep breath. We'll start all over again with Armin Tolentino, who is the Poet Laureate of Clark County, Washington, and is the author of the collection We Meant to Bring It Home Alive, Alternating Current Press. He earned an MFA at Rutgers University, Newark, New Jersey, and his writing has appeared in journals including Rigorous, Gobshite Quarterly, which I looked up. Gobshite is bragging. Gobshite Quarterly, Portland Magazine, and Pontoon Poetry. He is a phenomenal clapper, a passable ukulele player, and a bumbling but enthusiastic fisherman. More info about him is at www.armintolentino.com and in his poetry, I hope.
you, Joan. I'm doing this right. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, like this, like,
Get close to the mic. Seven ways the story could end. Curled up, the girl hides in the weeds of the forest. The hunter returns. The wolf bleeds in the forest. The girl's packing heat. The wolf flashes a 9. The firefight lights up the eaves in the forest. The girl suggests they form a prog rock ensemble. The wolf, baritone, sings lead in the forest. You shot my pet wolf. Then I didn't know. The hunter regrets. The girl grieves in the forest. The wolf hoes a square, clears the rocks and debris. All day, they plant lavender seeds in the forest. There isn't a girl, no wolf, and no hunter. Just fur and red threads beneath leaves in the forest. We didn't plan that out, did we? All right. I think I have a poem for that. Oh my gosh, this is a beautiful view. My gosh, you all look wonderful out there. I am just thrilled to be back in Eugene. What an amazing literary city. I haven't been here in a long time. I feel the energy from all you Eugenes. Is that what you call yourselves? Eugeniuses? All right. It's wonderful to see you all. And Cecelia, just beautiful work. And I'm just honored to get to share this microphone with you in this amazing library. So thanks for letting me be here and read some poems to you all. Happy autumn. It's autumn. You may not know that going outside. I was driving down and I was like, I am way overdressed with the temperature out there. It's scary how hot it is out there, especially because I love autumn and I like when it gets colder out and being in my comfy baggy clothes. And I wanted, especially, not only do I change my wardrobe for the season, I wanted to change to my cold weather poems, which are so first. I mean, my cold weather poems they're just as depressing as my warm weather poems. I just hope they invoke for you like a feeling of like I would like a stout right now versus a shandy. You know, that's what I'm hoping you're feeling. But they're all depressing and regardless, I hope none of my poems make you want a White Claw. That's my goal for poetry. Here's a poem called "The Joy Crow." And the joy crow in my head is instead of a scarecrow, it's a thing that makes crows happy. So here's a joy crow. The joy crow. My gut, a sack of boiled peanuts. My heart, 4 cubes of rabbit haunch. I wear no flannel. I was made without skin. No barricade between the crows and jubilation. But every crow has met a shotgun before or wedge of cheddar soaked in avicide. Slowly they trust the feast of my body. Ripe and splitting, my pomegranate eyes weep fat crimson seeds for crows to gorge until I'm blinded. The crows caw their intoxication. My maker made me with 3 mouths. The first, a rosewood perch. This mouth says, rest here. I bear no weapons. The second, a dangle of tinny bells. This mouth says, sing with me. Your song delights the heavens. The third, a shard of mirror. This mouth says, cherish yourself. You were made in our maker's image. My single arm is a spade that points to the field. The field has no mouth, but says through the soil's moist respirations, everything planted here was planted for you. Fill yourself on the harvest, or if you cannot wait, gobble the seeds before they root. I wasn't made in the image of my maker. I was made in the image of the field. I too say, take your fill. And once I'm exhausted, my tatters were made to still mutter, take and take and take. There's some East Coast for you. I'm bringing the East Coast into this because I was like, hey, I get to do this with Cecelia. We got some really cool rivers around here, no lie, but I'm from the East Coast, and there's a river out there called the Susquehanna, which is just a phenomenal, wondrous river. I think Jack Kerouac said it was like the most depressing river or something like that. There's just something spooky about just wondrous and spooky and humbling when you're near rivers like that. And so there's a bridge that crosses from Maryland, where I was living, to Delaware, and I would cross it a lot. None of these are autobiographical. I'm not a scarecrow, nor am I the speaker right here. Or am I? No, I'm not. Last night, Orion. I looked up and saw Orion stalk between the cracks in the clouds. Because my car was dead midway across the Susquehanna, reckless hunter, I saw all the stars where the shattered sternums of caribou split with his arrows. The vast tundra of heaven littered with cooling bodies. My car was frozen, as was my resolve, staring over the railing of the Haddam. I could walk south to Havre de Grace, or north to Perryville, or stand breathless above this sacred river until the bridge crumbled and emptied into the Chesapeake. Where did he dress the kill? The blind of clouds would shift to flash the sneering moon. I did what I have always done, thinking all the while, what you kill, you take with you. You never leave it to rot, even yourself. A couple newer poems here. A great poet in Vancouver, Washington, where I live, this guy, Will Erickson, was sharing this writing advice to me that I thought was really cool. Just sort of this idea that if you have a series of poems and there's sort of like characters in it, but like they're sort of vague characters, you don't know who they are really. Like just give one name, like make them all the same character. Just follow this one around. It's sort of like the Big Bad Wolf, right? Or the clown, and among others. Just sort of follow this entity and let it take shape. And so I've been imagining that with just the name Dominica. I don't know any Dominicas. I just think it's a cool name. And I'm just thinking about how I can follow Dominica, and I see Dominica in Astoria, and there's sort of a speaker that's hanging out with Dominica. I don't know if Dominica is even real. Like the speaker believes Dominica's there. And I sort of like seeing what their shenanigans are. So here's a couple of poems about Dominica and a speaker who's hanging out with her. 6 a.m. crushed between the Pacific and the solstice. Dominica's barefoot and clenching her machete. I shouldn't help, but I'm compelled, Lord knows. The lighthouse barely cuts the fog on the jetty. Autumn turned over. Dominica's not ready. The sky is drooling a gibberish of snow. Dominica, where'd you leave your shoes? Her machete is as rusted as her toenails. A gust conjures an eddy that spooks my ears. A tiny man grows old in the lighthouse that burns at the tip of the jetty. I buckle in the cold. This planet's too tilted, unsteady. I'm dizzy, Dominica. Where can we go? How is she not freezing? Dressed in scraps and a machete. A dulled down blade is its own type of deadly. The man who knows he'll die in the lighthouse glows with the will to save the ships from the jetty. Dominica, what can I hold on to? But I already know. The beach is made of pummeled sailors' bones. Dominica, I plead. I want to rest my heart on her machete and watch the warships gash themselves upon the jetty. Let's see what they're up to next. Dominica and her buddy. A vigil beneath stars like a colony of ants. Dominica's outside the Desdemona, waiting to be let in. It's been boarded up since before she was born. It's boarded up, and ants pour through the slats. She forgot something inside, she says. She forgot something important and waits each night for the door to open when it won't. It's holy to open your hope so wide all the faithful can pour through like a pilgrimage of ants. I'll wait through the cold with her. I pull out ivy tangled in her hair. Her eyes are closed when a sliver of light, a hair's width, a groan. I swear I saw the door. No, but still we hold each other's door open. It's Sunday. We're together, outside, ill-starred. Sip of water. Okay. I got time, right? I got time. I'm gonna try something. No, don't sure yet. Let's see how this goes. I should know how to hold these, right? Yeah, okay. I'm not really like I'm not really like a musician or a performer necessarily. I like playing this thing. And I wanted to play it because it's scary. It's scary to play this. And it's sometimes fun to do scary things in a safer environment, and you all look fairly non-judgmental, and we'll find out if I'm a good judge of character. So one reason is that fear, I think, is healthy. And then the second reason is because I hear this often, maybe not all the time, but I hear it often enough where people who I think are really just knowledgeable, creative people who love reading will also say, I just don't like poetry. I don't get poetry. You've heard some sort of version of this. I'm assuming you're not the ones in this room unless you were dragged here. Or you're like, oh, I thought there's free pizza. And suddenly what is this thing? The idea that, boy, I could talk for a while about why I think that's the case. But more importantly, I think poetry is innate in us. It's actually how our minds and language probably work more naturally than prose. And to block that out of your life, whether blocking it out from reading or writing it, just seems like such a disservice to yourself. And poetry at its best resists easy answers. It resists those neat little bows that can sometimes happen with TV shows or novels. It allows space to just really reflect and experience wonder. You can't write a novel without using a telephone. You can't. You can't write 360 pages without using a telephone. You can write something very powerful about what it feels like to use a telephone and to connect to other people. We're like, oh, that's what it feels like. That's pretty amazing that you can take the mundane, put some words together, and some magic happens. So, quick pitch right, for poetry. There's some value to it, but hopefully you all are already bought in. And then the other thing, though, is that I didn't read poetry growing up. I didn't have like poetry books. And it was actually a very long time before I realized, like, oh, there's such a thing as like one poet has all their poems sort of in a collection. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought, I don't know, like I just knew textbooks. So, but my access point, as many of yours probably was through songs, right? You probably listened to songs. You probably listened to songs with words. I'm sure you didn't just listen to instrumentals. And those words matter to you. And you know why those words matter to you? Because when you found out later in life, oh, those are the real words, you got really disappointed. You're like, no, the version I know is the right version. I wrote a better version than you, Bob Dylan. Like, get your thing down in your head, right? So words matter. And there's more similarity probably to song lyrics and poetry than maybe just poetry and novels, I would think. I think there's maybe even more relationship there. So, this song, which I did not write, was inspired some of the next poems I'll read to you also. Good enough? Okay, let's try this out. Let's see how bad this goes. Okay. Down control to Major Tom. Down control to Major Tom. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on. Down control to Major Tom. Commencing countdown engines on. Check ignition and may God's love be with you. Sing along. This is ground control to Major Tom. Will you really make it great? And the papers want to know whose shirt you wear. Now it's time to leave the capsule if you dare. This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through the door. And I'm floating in a most peculiar way. And the stars are very different today. For here am I floating in my tin can. Far above the world. Planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing I can do. Thank you. I did not write that song called Space Oddity by David Bowie. And that song, along with another song by Elton John called Rocket Man, and another song that you may not be as familiar with by a band called At the Drive-In called One Arm Scissor, really helped inform some of the writing of this book and the book Moby Dick. And so also, like, I teach a lot of writing workshops, and I'm sometimes surprised that people don't realize that you can make stuff up. You can make stuff up, right? David Bowie doesn't know any astronauts, I don't think. Right? Just make it up. Have some fun with that, right? So this is all made up, even though people are like, no, that's autobiographical. No, it's not true. So this series of poems is about the first third of this book is about a guy named Space Boy. I'm not great at names, so his name is Space Boy, and he's lost in space. And but really, a lot of the poems are actually in the voice of his brother, who's on Earth, and this is his brother who's in space. So I think I'll read the ones that are in the brother's voice, and then yeah, I think I have time for a few of these. So this is them as kids in the voice of the brother. Space Boy's first mission, age 12. A dozen poplar logs, dried and light as styrofoam, dragged from the forest and fastened with jute we snuck from Dad's toolbox. Summer vacation testing buoyancy on the lake from whose center an island bloomed. Glittering alien planet, and no way to know how many fathoms we'd sink if our knot should relax or the wood suck too much water. The night before our launch, I asked, "What do you think we'll find?" He was packing provisions, fish hooks, compass, chocolate chip cookies, a book mapping stars. Mammoth bones or ruins, probably, he shrugged. Just hope we don't see any dragons. Whalers used to say a dragon at sea meant you'd never make it back home. Next morning, I faked sickness and confessed to our parents the summer-long project when he didn't come home by dinner. Dad borrowed a neighbor's skiff, and my brother was grounded. Telescope privileges forbidden as well. He wouldn't even look at me. At least you didn't see a dragon, I said. He stared out the window. It was dark too soon already. His anger, my gratitude, 2 stars to navigate us to the equinox. His words fogged the window. How do you know I didn't? There's a number of these poems that have the same title, and they're all in the voice of this brother, so I'll just read those to finish out. A letter that Space Boy never received. You wouldn't know, at T-7, I shut my eyes from the shuttle's exhaust, a blossom of orange that burned itself into gray. Couldn't shake the feeling you just strapped yourself inside the throat of a dragon. The crowd saying goodbye. At 0, you broke the thick quilt of cumulus, but I never watched you go. Another confession. That summer we built a log raft with twine, a handbook on knots, and no knowledge of nautical physics. I wasn't too sick to join in the journey, just a co-pilot frozen by the unshakable thought the lake was alive and halfway across would love us too much to ever let us go. If I sank, what would Mom have to lay in my coffin? Would my soul snap loose from its anchor of bones? How would it find the surface? That morning, you sailed, offered her proud to the water's give, but I witnessed nothing, locked in the bathroom, crying too much to wish you good luck. Since blast off, I've trained my eyes to stay open, to stare at stretches of sky without tiring. So patient, I now can spot black migrations of midges against empty miles of blue. Brother, I promise I will not blink. I will not flinch. Pull back this time. I will not miss 1 second of your return. A letter that Space Boy never received. Do you remember Mom making us tea on snow days? You never took honey, but savored the bitterness, thinking things that adults forbade were always acrid. Coffee, whiskey, smoke. Like you were reaching for the future in a cup of biting darkness. Back then, you guessed the universe was shaped like a teacup, dipping in the center, with all the matter that had ever existed floating in its walls. You had no proof, but still I pestered. If I could somehow run fast enough against the curve and climb that slope, could I reach the lip and stand on the thin division between is and is not? And if so, would I feel wind? Do you know the answer now? One more poem here. A letter that Space Boy never received. In place of a best man, I kept in my pocket the meteorite you gave me for graduation. A shocking weight, made of space's densest metals. You explained how falling stars splintered from the same extinct planet, leaving its ruins between Mars and Jupiter, a belt of broken continents haunting the sun, and perhaps now I carried the frozen core of a dead world in my jacket. All that was left when the atmosphere shaved off its burning layers. It sagged my tucks in the photos. My mother-in-law complained, but that's what I wanted, for us always to have proof you were there. Thank you.
Wow, is all I can say here. Also, I read somewhere recently that they just found out that the moon has iron in the middle of it. Yeah, that the whole core of the moon is made out of iron. So, yeah, another book for you. Thank you all for coming here, but don't go away yet because something very exciting is going to happen. So please don't leave unless you absolutely have to. And that is that Erica is going to ask our poets a few questions. And we'll see how they answer. Erica does.
While there's a pause, I can see if there's anything that is in YouTube. People have made comments. I think they've just made some positive comments, so hold on. Yeah. Hold on.
Can you hear me? Yes, yes, okay. All righty, thank you so much, Cecelia and Armin. That was an amazing reading, right? Can we do another?
Oh, so good.
I'm a secret fan of the ukulele, so, but I didn't know about it. Pride you. So I'm going to ask you guys some questions, and I'll just ask you first, Cecelia, because you're closest to me, and then I'll ask you for a minute. Okay. So this is a really easy one. About how many hours a day in the week do you have for your writing? What do you think?
I am in 2 writing groups, and one of them meets every week, and so that's at least a couple hours thinking into that because there's just so many distractions. I would say, some weeks it's a lot, but it probably averages out to 3 hours a week. Sad. I'm not the poet laureate. Armin.
Counting is like 0. Sometimes it's 0. Sometimes it's 0. I don't have a regular practice, and I don't think you necessarily need a regular practice. You need whatever you need, right? And I would like to have some more regular, what kind of balance with myself but I'm like, it's there. It's still there. I haven't lost it. I can always come back to it. Most of my writing nowadays is I do generative workshops in the community. part of my role. And within those spaces, sometimes I'm more focused on like, oh, is everyone doing okay? Like, are they all writing? This isn't going awful. But you know, some really it's fun to piece through those things that you do in my life. But sometimes there's value to the writing, whether it becomes something else. There's value just putting words down in the moment, and something there is probably good for you, regardless of whether it becomes a project or a book.
Oh, I'll talk a little bit louder.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Those are really good answers. And you know, I think it's really critical to know, maybe think, well, gosh, I didn't write anything today, to know that it's okay, right? When you write, or if you just don't have bandwidth to do it. It's not like gymnastics, right? If you don't do gymnastics every day, you lose it. That's what they all say. But if you don't write for a few days, like you're saying, those doors are open for you, which is pretty awesome. So this was, I saw this question, I'm like, should I answer this? Okay. I'm going to ask you. What does literary success look like to you? What does that look like to you? This is personal for you. Yeah.
Last night I was in Portland in the Keller Auditorium and saw Barbara Kingsolver, is a novelist, read, and imagine, I mean, I don't know, 1,000 people like clapping for a novelist just answering questions. That's pretty cool. I mean, that's pretty amazing when that happens. And so yes, I think there's a thing we can get when we think about like the publishing prize side of things, the accolades versus just writing for yourself kind of thing. Sometimes you lose focus of like why do you do this and why is it core to you? So literary success, right? Answer the question. And I think the thing that I always try to remind myself when it's like, oh, you're not doing enough, or you're not successful, or whatever. It's like there are strangers who picked up my book and read it, and even before I had a book, there were strangers who read my poem somewhere and they felt something. They don't know me, they're not my family, and have to pretend to like me. That's pretty amazing, right? And so to have that feeling of that someone, your words somehow touch someone across space and time is a pretty amazing thing, right? That magic. Stephen King talks about that in his memoir. So for me, there's the fact that people read the stuff and they felt something just like I felt, and I've heard something that I didn't know. I think that's good.
Well, I mean, their literary success certainly applies on, but I think poetry, that's hardly a position. And I would love to have had one of those, but I didn't. But there's the success of just pleasing yourself and having that community. And I don't know, if I didn't have that creative side to my life, I would just be so different. I don't know if people do that. They don't have it. Everybody does it, some like cooking or something. But yeah, it's just always been with me. And I have taught memoir classes, and a lot of those people are like, my kids don't even want to read what I'm writing about my past. And I'm like, well, just wait till you die. And then we don't want to read it. I mean, success, like Armin said, strangers might read your work. I mean, I do urge them to get their work if they can self-publish, however, they can do it because then that's something that somebody might read. So I mean, from the case solver to the like with my memoirs that kids are gonna look at when I'm not. But I did write my memoirs, just to be clear.
Thank you. It's a great answer. This one, I'm going to ask you first, Cecelia. Do you view writing as any kind of a spiritual practice?
When I was a kid, I went to Catholic school, and my parents divorced, which is not a Catholic thing. So I was kind of in this self-created, so defined limbo. And the nuns, if you have a vocation, you want to be a priest. And there was like something, and this Marie Andrews, who I loved, said, "Who's going to be a nun?" And all the girls raised their hand. And she's like, "Cecelia, I cleaned the condom. I went to school early to clean the condom." But she's like, "Cecelia, you don't want to be." didn't realize the hubris. I just like to get the nun, like to so, but then my spirituality just really faded. What I do to take greater than art. And when I read, speaking of, just died earlier this month, and so many people are posting her poems, and I do feel this spiritual, even in her really austere, like night light poem. There's some spiritual feeling.
Spirituality, I mean, this is a hard world. This is a hard world we live in. Hard stuff, and you need a lot of tools to survive it. And I don't know if I don't know where I am spiritually. I think it is yours, but the sort of that idea is writing comes with it. Versus like, oh, this is a cool idea. I think I can make it. And nothing wrong with that. I meet writers, successful writers, who go ahead and I get you to a novel now. Cool. Or like it just sort of like a hobby like it would be for me, like shooting pool. This is deep for me. This is something that I want to really dive into that I don't know what else I can do with my time. Because it's sometimes hard to survive this world. Take as many healthy, and I'm not going to judge what yours are. Get the healthy ones, because you want to last. And one was pretty old one. Poetry, especially as a mechanism that allows the connection of ideas without solution, that allows and expansion that poetry allows. Also, get the deep attention feels as purposeful a thing as I know how to do right now. And so, if not spiritually, it's a fundamental basic need, perhaps one.
That was really sometimes people ask me, like, do you go to church? I go to my backyard. The backyard is my church, close to my offering. Yeah, but you said it so well. Okay, we have a couple more questions. This is kind of a nitty-gritty one. Armin, is there one thing you wish that you had that would make your writing life easier? Like something you had right now, something that would make your life as a writer.
I just want to learn how to do it. One thing that would make it a little easier. I'm not going to say something because I do have time. Like I don't have kids. I mean, I can find time. I'm not doing that. One thing that would make it easier is I would like to less sleep a lot at a house cat. So I think that eats into my writing time. But I think one thing that would help me is just sort of a writing space that I want to regularly use. Sort of no offense to the I go to. Right. It's like this one doesn't have Wi-Fi working. This one the coffee's too strong and I feel sick by noon. This one the bathroom. It's like, it's like one spot where I feel like I can go. So maybe writing chats every
Writing chat would be cool. But what I'd really like is better memory. Because partly because I'm not spring chick anymore, but I can't remember. I don't know how people now that they do poetry books used to have them all be kind of cohesive, poems with a theme and but poetry book is also 60, 70 poems. And I use what's in there, and I just wish I could remember more. So I had that great memory that my son has. I don't know. I gave to him and I lost. But yeah, if I had a better memory,
It's true, our kids take everything, right? Even our memories. Okay, and the last question, I'm going to start with you, Cecelia. What poets inspire you?
so many. And Craig's a visual artist. I've always college since art appreciation and went to my first museum, I have appreciated visual art, but writing Louise Glick, Marie Howe, Diane Sanders, Jack Gilbert, Gerald Stern, Gerald Stern on my own. I'll stop with that, but there's so many.
I feel like I should know a question like this is coming, and I always freeze up. Like, wait, what's the names? It's like, which poems, and I just can't always remember people's names. But there's so many that I feel like it formed. And also, I'm a very slow reader, so I'm not a person who's I'm all poets. So sometimes I only know one or two books. But Lucy brought great up. I don't remember she passed years ago, but just phenomenal with line breaks and just like the surprise wonder, I think, of breaks way. Lee Young Lee. Lee Young Lee. Just I don't think I could write that way. I'm not trying to write that way. It's just amazing to be surrounded by it. And one more, Thomas Lux. If you know Thomas Lux's work, I just love how weird it was. You know, and I think that's one thing. Ooh, this is fun and weird. You can like fun and weird stuff there.
Yeah, you're being inspired by poets who write things that are fun, weird, and maybe just really different from what you write. You know, explore those options. I'm a huge fan of Terrence Hayes. I think he's amazing. I can never write. Like whenever I read his, I don't even get through one poem because I put it down and start writing. In my head. And another poet I've always loved is Robert Frost. She is just in my heart forever. Well, so thank you again, poets, for putting up with my questions. Now I'm going to open it to the audience. Do you have any? Do you have any questions for our writers? Do raise your hand.
I was just curious what brought Armin all the way from the Atlantic coast to the Pacific coast, or specifically Vancouver, Washington.
Yeah, not a particularly exciting story. I'm from the East Coast. I grew up in Jersey, in Boston, cold and miserable. I broke my heart. There was nothing there for me. So I left, and so I was okay. Let's travel. Across country. What was interesting, every part of the country was especially interesting back then. Like, I could see myself living in Ohio, Montana, but I knew some people in Portland who wasn't getting any place to stay. Well, I got on my feet. So, good friends, I guess, are more popular. I go to bicycle. So bicycle got me here, and it's also the real thing that whenever I get from, I'm actually here. I'm still me wherever I go. It's just that it's good here, no offense. That's all that. So I guess I'm real patient. With Sin and my wife lives here, and
All right. In that case, our poets have their books up here if you're interested in talking to them or buying their books, which would be a really nice charitable poetry community thing to do. I certainly will. And there are snacks over here that you can enjoy, hang out. We're here to you. So, come on. And thank you to our writers. Thanks.